I'd love to congratulate all the other honorees. It's absolutely an honor to be the one of the 50 of you to stand up here and speak, and I don't take that lightly, genuinely. Congratulations to you all. I'm sure you've done just as great stuff as me. Thank you. I have to, but thank my family. My lovely wife, Kara's here. My brother, Owen, his wife, Les, my sister-in-law has been my sister-in-law so long. She's my sister, Dana, and John, my brother-in-law. I really appreciate you all coming. I appreciate all the IEXers. I hope you don't feel compelled to be here. I was saying to Jamie at the table, it is end of year, and on Wall Street, that's bonus time. So when I offered them to come to a table to hear me speak, they were like clawing at each other's eyes to get here. So anyway, I'd also really appreciate Siobhan and Eamon, who flew in from Dublin, from Gaul for this. And then obviously everybody's favorite man in the room, Ed Kenny, who also is on the board of Gaul with me. So Ed, I appreciate everything you've done. Cheers. Then obviously I have to say thank you to Neil. That was a great job. I just met you tonight and I feel like I've known you a long time. And I appreciate and I would like to say thank you to Trish. Trish has been amazing. I only met Trish a couple of months ago. Any of you in the room who know her know she's an absolute character. And it's been great to get to know you, and I hope to get to know you a little bit more. Well, a lot more. A little bit more sounds wrong. Anyway, so in the introduction, Neil talked about the book Flash Boys that was written and talked about my father. I remember when I told him the name of the book, he said it sounds like a Vegas mail review, honestly. But it's probably why I'm up here today. We've done great things, the people at IEX and the people I've worked with my whole career. I'm very proud of it. But I'm probably most known for this book, Flash Boys. So I'll tell you a little story. A few days before the book was made public, these lights are awfully bright, I can barely see anybody, but a few days before the book was made public, the table of contents from the book and some of the excerpts from the book leaked on the internet. And somebody texted me the table of contents. And when I got the text, chapter 3 is called Ronan's Problem. Obviously my name, Ronan, Ronan's Problem. I'm like, oh my God, there's a chapter written on me. So I thought this would be interesting for tonight to explain to you the difference between an Irish father and an American father. So the only prop I ever use when I do any of these speeches is, you'll see by the folds on this that I've had this in my wallet for years. People ask me, what's it like to be in a Michael Lewis book? Also, I'd like to say why I didn't bring my glasses tonight, but anyway. So when the book leaked in the internet, we called up Michael Lewis and we said, people are already reading the book. We have not, I promise you, we had not read a word of the book. So he had the publisher message the book down to our office, and the trading day ends at 4 o'clock, and we said, we won't read the book. Stands here, you will remember. We won't read the book till 4 o'clock. Market closed, everybody ran to the cardboard box, opened it, and I, of course, went right to chapter 3. First sentence in chapter 3, what's it like to be in a Michael Lewis book? Part of Ronan's problem was that he didn't look like a Wall Street trader. He had pale skin and narrow stooped shoulders and the uneasy caution of a man who has survived one potato famine and is expecting another. And I closed the book. I'm like, yeah, this is a bad start. So next up, a few paragraphs down is, watching Ronan try to string together sentences without profanity was like watching someone try to swim across a river without using their arms or legs. Okay, so here's my story. Obviously my father, Eamon, he's in Dublin. My American father, Joe D'Ambrosio, is in America. So when I got this text at the table of contents, I sent it to both of them. I said, can you guys believe this? There's a chapter written after me. And my father-in-law, the American, wrote back, oh my God, I can't believe this. I'm so proud of you. I can't wait to read the book. This is going to be amazing. Remember, the chapter is called Ronan's Problem. My dad in Dublin wrote this short message to me, what the fuck's your problem? You have to know my dad. Trust me, this was his message to me. So I guess I honest to God, carry this with me every day. And the reason why I do is, people say, you try to be humble. I try to be humble. I don't always do the greatest job of it, but I try to be humble. So for this talk tonight, I thought the key tenets of what I have tried to do in my career, and I'm not here to lecture anybody whatsoever, is there's the expression in life, you make your own luck, which you certainly do. But I think you have to have a lot of luck along the way, and I've had a lot of luck along the way, and the expression, the luck of the Irish, I literally have had luck of Irish people helping me out along the way. Honestly, it's just been remarkable. The other thing, I'm a big believer, and anybody who works with me will say this, I'm a big believer, ask a lot of questions. I always ask questions, and on Wall Street, a lot of people are a little scared to ask questions, because if you ask a question, you're admitting you don't know the answer. But I say, ask a question, but do something with the answer. And then the last thing that I've tried to take in my life, because of the help that Irish people have given me, is when you can, when you're in the position to, you should give back. So his name, both of their names were brought up earlier today, but I graduated college. So I moved from Ireland in 1990 when I was 16. My dad came over with the IDA. He's more of a legend than my brother and I knew till today, but this is great. And when I graduated college, my parents had gone back to Ireland, and I was looking for a job, and I got offered a job by two people, Tom Moran from Mutual of America and John Sharkey from MCI. And honestly, I like to think I'm no dope, but they offered me a job because I was Irish. And no offense to Table 2, so you don't charge the podium here. I took the job at MCI, and I don't really know why I didn't take the job at Mutual of America. But Tom Moran, God rest this guy, he was a legend too, and a really great guy. But John Sharkey, who hired me, was just an unbelievable guy, and someone, you meet these people in your career that you'll never forget. John passed away in 2018, and he's a guy I stayed in contact with right until that time. Just a legend of a guy. Anyway, he gave me a job at MCI, and the job was in network engineering. I had a Bachelor of Arts degree from Fairfield University. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but, and they used to call us back then Sharky hires, and thank God John's not here because he'd probably be insulted. But many of them actually turned out to be dopes. So, yeah, they did. He'd give anyone off the fucking boat a job. It's no joke. I'm a half dope, but I looked great compared to them. Anyway, this was 1996, and all of you in the room, some of you are younger, some of you are older, but the internet really came about in like the mid-90s. But in 1996, the advent of the internet, it was a really, really interesting place to be. And I got my nerd on, and I got trained on technology and how data packets traverse from one place to the next. And you fast forward to today, and you land anywhere in the world, right? The first thing you do is turn the phone off airplane mode. And if the phone doesn't work right away, you declare that this thing sucks, right? But back in the day, this stuff didn't happen that way. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I did the engineering side of things for a number of years. And then I found out it might be the Irish thing. I'm a pretty good sales guy. And the sales guys were making far more money than me. So I said, why don't I switch from engineering to sales? And I did that for a number of years. So 2005, I went to work for a company called Radiance. I don't know if people in the room even have ever heard of Radiance, but it was born out of September 11th. Obviously, everybody knows what happens at September 11th, but what people didn't know is how technology was impacted and how people couldn't trade for months on many of the exchanges because the exchanges weren't set up for redundancy. So downtown New York was damaged quite a bit, and Radiance came about and provided diverse connectivity, just made sure that every exchange had connection no matter what happened. And I thought it was great. It was sort of like a crossing paths of my technology and trading, because I wanted to work on Wall Street my whole career. Another Irish guy, Jerry O'Leary, I'm not sure if people know him, he was at Chemical Bank, and I did an internship there right before my senior year. They offered me a job, and 2 months into my senior year, Chase Manhattan bought Chemical Bank, and Ronan had no job. Shit, right? And I needed John Sharkey and Tom Moran to bail me out. And in any case, when I was at Radiance, and I'm not going to go too technical, and I'll get back more into the fun stuff, but I got a call that literally changed my life, like literally changed my life. And it's one of these things, like you say, you make your own luck, but you really have to be lucky. So one day I was on the desk and I got a call from a guy at Barclays, a broker at Barclays, and he had a guy on the phone from a high frequency, it was called a black box trading firm. I didn't even know what the hell that was. And from Kansas, Bountiful Trust. The guy's name is Ted Conrad. And Ted got on the phone and he started talking about every time I send my trades from Kansas to New Jersey, it takes me 43 milliseconds to get acknowledgement of my trade. My inner monologue said, what the fuck's a millisecond? Then I said, Ted, that sounds terrible. I think I can help you. And from my technology days, I knew that delay was introduced by distance. So if you move your computers from Kansas, Ted, to New Jersey, you can trade much faster. So we moved his servers from Kansas to New Jersey, and he went from 43 milliseconds to 3.9 milliseconds. A millisecond is 1/1000 of a second. I Googled it. It was even Google back in 2005. Anyway, I found out afterwards why Ted was so upset. This guy was so happy. By being in New Jersey, it changed his trading strategy. And I remember I took him out to dinner a couple of weeks after it, and I said, Ted, I'm really happy that you as a client are happy. I don't really know why you're happy. Can you tell me the value of a millisecond? And he told me in the first 4 days of trading out of New Jersey, 43 milliseconds to basically 4 milliseconds, so 10 times faster, he made more additional money in his strategy than he had paid me for 18 months. I was charging him $30,000 a month. So I'm like, there's something to this business. I called up the guy at Barclays, and I said, I need you to introduce me to as many of these black box fellows as you can. And that was the start of my career. I started setting up all the technology for all these high-frequency traders. And in 2009, I got the opportunity to work at the Royal Bank of Canada, RBC. And my wife who's here will tell you, I was trying to work on Wall Street on the business side, not the technology side, for so many years. I did so many interviews, and I got told to fly a kite so many times that I was walking to this interview. Don't get upset with me, Kara. I was walking to the interview that morning, and I called her, and I said, yeah, I'm about to walk in. It's going to be good. And she goes, do me a favor. And I'm like, what? And she goes, this time when they say no, don't get so upset, right? So I said, no, RBC are in the same building as you were when you worked at American Express, and she graduated Red Bank Catholic in New Jersey, RBC. I said, this thing's a luck. I was totally full of shit. It turned out to be a luck. I got this job, and I got my first crack at working on Wall Street on the trading floor. So day one, I promise you, it sounds like a story in a book. It turned out to be a story in a book. I was on the trading floor. The market opens. There was an options trading desk next to me. They're all shouting. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I walked into a meeting, and those of you who work on Wall Street probably have heard of an algorithm called a VWAP algorithm. I sat there for 3 hours listening to these guys talk about a VWAP algorithm. So Brad, who now is one of the co-founders and the CEO of IEX, he was my boss at the time. Day one, I walk into his office, and he goes, how's your first day? And I said, listen, I just sat in a 3-hour meeting on VWAP, and I have no fucking idea what they're talking about. And he literally goes, you're really direct. And he goes, I guess I am. And he goes, you think what I know is rocket science. I think what you know is rocket science. And I promise you in this room, this really happened. We got on a whiteboard and we started talking to each other about technology, trading, and how everything came together. And it wasn't just the two of us. We had a great team. Stan in the room was on that team, and we developed a trading software, and everything on Wall Street has to have an acronym. So it was called THOR, Tactical Hybrid Order Router. Terrible name. But anyway, the customers liked it. RBC went from a no one in electronic trading to #1 in electronic trading execution within 1 year. And it was just, no broker had even jumped 4 spots. We went from 18 to first. And it was all about just, fighting technological issues with technology. And we went to clients at the end of the year. They started to trade less with us, and you have to work on a trading desk to know why. It's, they have to pay brokers for other services. And many of the brokers the clients said to us, if you can think of something bigger, meaning not only when we trade with RBC, when we trade anywhere, we'll support you. So a bunch of us, we came up with this idea to start a stock exchange. The four of us at the beginning who came up with this idea had never worked at a stock exchange. We didn't know what the hell we were doing, but the center of the ecosystem to us is the stock exchange. And I'll give you one technology term because it's kind of important for something I want to tell you a little later. Remember when I said we brought Ted and Bountiful Trust from Kansas to New Jersey? That was to be close to the exchanges. Now there's a terminology in our business called co-location. It's not good enough to be in New Jersey. You actually now have to be in the same building as the stock exchange. So there's 16 stock exchanges in the US. I'm sure everybody in the room has heard of the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. But there's other exchanges like Boston, Philadelphia, Chicago, Miami, for Christ's sake, has a stock exchange. There's a bunch of stock exchanges, and they're all in 4 buildings in New Jersey. And in the trading space, everybody who's anybody who's trading in speed has their computers in these 4 buildings in New Jersey. It's mental. They now are getting into arguments over where they are in the building relative to their competitors in the building, and how long their cable is from their computer to the matching engine of the exchange. And just to give you an idea, every foot of cable, 11.9 inches, but every foot of cable equates to a nanosecond, which is a billionth of a second. And people are getting into arguments over the length of those cables. So that's where we've gotten in this business. Anyway, we started IEX, and the whole idea with IEX, our exchange, was just to slow things down. We slow things down 350 millionths of a second. We were the first stock exchange ever founded, first trading venue ever founded by the institutional investors. And I'm blessed to work with these people. We've been at this 10 years. It's been quite a battle, but we've garnered quite a bit of market share, and things have really been successful. And what I decided, I know I'm not super old, but I'm turning 49 in June, and I decided about giving back, right? So giving back, I can't believe Patricia brought up that my uncle owns a store called Knobs and Knockers. So literally, Conan O'Brien was quoted as saying he went to Dublin and was really disappointed when he went to Knobs and Knockers that it was not what he expected. My uncle literally sells doorknobs and door knockers, but that name wouldn't sell. Anyway, when any Irish person that he'd interact with while he was selling doorknobs and door knockers would go to America, he'd tell them, go see my nephew Ronan. And I think he said, he'll give you a job. So people were like knocking on my door all the time. And I was back one New Year's Eve, and I turned to, his name is Des, and I'm like, Des, for Christ's sake, would you stop sending Irish people my way? And my family all call me Ro. And my Aunt Gina, she got me. She goes, Ro, an Irish guy gave you a chance. You got to give an Irish guy a chance. So I went back 2 weeks later, and I hired an Irish guy who totally, when he interviewed, was not the guy for the job, but he turned out to be an amazing guy for the job. And John Sharkey, God love him, came to my office, and I took, Frank Lennox is the guy's name, and I took Frank into the room and I said, hey, John is to me what I am to you, and you have to give back to the Irish community as well. And since then, he and I have hired a bunch of Irish people. So it's really important to keep the cycle going, because again, I got my job for being nothing other than being Irish. Anyway, the other part of giving back that I'd like to talk about, and Patricia mentioned it, I'm really, really excited to be the chairman of Goal USA. And like I said, Siobhan and Eamon are here from Goal Ireland. It's an unbelievable thing. I'm not sure how many of you know what Goal is, and I'm not going to lecture you on what Goal is, but I can remember as a kid they weren't euro then, they were 5p, 10p, into the box, and you'd get a Goal sticker. And it was a global humanitarian relief organization founded in the 1970s in Ireland. Now there's 3,000 people working there. They're in 14 countries. servicing 18 million people. Like from a country of 4 million people of Ireland, we are still so relevant in the global humanitarian relief. It really is amazing. And I sit here talking to you about microseconds and milliseconds and all this other nonsense. These guys are feet on the ground. 2 days after Russia invaded Ukraine, they're there. They're there in Syria now. They're there in Colombia, in Venezuela, in Sudan, in Sierra Leone. These people are really doing real stuff. So when Siobhan, who's an amazing salesperson, approached me on Goal, I took the role, and I'm trying to figure out, what the hell can I do here? I've never really been out of Ireland, America, and the Caribbean, or any other nice places on vacation. But what's really important, and many of you in the room, this will resonate, when you're running businesses and you're running P&Ls, profitability is important. When you're running a charity organization, when you all give money to a charity, you want 100% of that money to go to what you donated it for. And that all makes sense. But go back to your business head and think, how expensive is it to run your business? You got to spend money to make money. And it's really, really important for these charities that they're given money and allowed to spend that money to get people, to get feet on the street, to get people on planes, to mobilize. It's expensive. And the US government is a massive donator to Goal. And I'm hoping with Goal US, and any of you in the room, I'm not asking for checks, obviously, but if you want to reach out to me afterwards, we want your help, we want your support, because there's so much that we can do to give back. And I'll end my speech with more of a funny story than talking about charity, but people would ask me all the time, it's great that you guys were covered in Flash Boys. What's a story that you think should have been in the book that wasn't being in the book, and that you think is funny? And the story to me is this. When we first met Michael Lewis, he's an amazing guy, he's an amazing author, he's written amazing books, there's movies and everything. He's such an inquisitive guy, and he would always ask questions on absolutely everything. And like I was telling you about these 4 data centers in New Jersey where all the exchanges reside, he asked me, can you take me out to see these data centers? So I set him up with a fake email, michael.lewis@IEX.com, and he came back to our office, and myself and Brad, we headed out to New Jersey with him. So we went to the first data center. It's in Weehawken, New Jersey. And any of you who have ever gone to these data centers, they're pretty cool. You go in, there's a lot of security, they check everything. You go biometric scanners, and he sees the computers, and he was a little underwhelmed. He's like, oh, it's just computers, there's no people trading. I'm like, clearly you didn't listen to anything I said, but I took him to the next data center, which is in Secaucus, New Jersey. It's owned by a company called Equinix. They're a public company, so those of you who know Equinix will know what I'm talking about. We took the sales team from IEX out there a few months ago. They're dark rooms. As you walk down the hallway, the black lights come on, your white shirts glow, you feel like you're in a nightclub. It's really cool, and there's all buzzing lights everywhere. Then next we went to Carteret, New Jersey. If anybody knows Carteret, New Jersey, it's like New Jersey at the beginning of The Sopranos. Shit. And after we did the tour, he goes, I think I've seen enough. I think I've seen enough. And I said, no. You have to come to the New York Stock Exchange data center. The New York Stock Exchange put $600 million into this data center in 2010. And it's an impressive data center. I've seen tons of them. I'm like, this is great. So he said, okay, let's go. We pull up to the data center. As we come up to the security booth, just in our car, they block in our car, front and back. And it's like the guys in the booth counted to 3. And they all came out together. They had mirrors under the car. They had a guard dog check the trunk and everything. And he turns to me and goes, this is what I'm talking about. This is good. This is good. So we get into the data center. We go through all the security, and we start to do the tour of the data center. And oh, by the way, all these guards were armed, guns. I'm not exaggerating. So we start to do the tour, and the guy was taking himself extraordinarily serious. And he's walking backwards as we're going down the hallway, and he's like, our fire suppression system is a rated Vesda or something. And Michael Lewis puts his hand in the air, and the guy goes, he was an ex-cop, he goes, sir, And Michael Lewis says to him, can you tell me how many people in this building are security? And he goes, that's classified information, sir. And I could see him thinking. We walk on. About 20 seconds later, he puts his hand in the air, and he says, sir. He goes, can you tell me how many people work in this building in total? And the guy goes, 35. And Michael says right away, how many of them are not security? He says, 29. I swear to God. So we walked out to the car. I was like a giddy school kid. I'm like, how the hell did you do that? He's like, what? I'm like, you just fleeced this guy. And he said, listen, Ronan, what I do is I ask questions, and if I don't get the answer that I want, I'll ask the question again a different way. And not that I'm looking to con people every time I ask them a question, but it's something I'll never forget. And he goes, there's a story in this, and that was the beginning of Flash Boys. So I guess what I would end this with is, don't take yourself too serious. Check yourself. Be very, very thankful for the luck you've gotten in life, because most all of us here have been incredibly lucky, and someone was there to help us. Someone had a John Sharkey, someone had a Tom Moran, and try to give back as best you can. And then, obviously, I'd like to thank Trish again for the opportunity to talk in front of you tonight, and all the honorees. Honestly, it's an honor that I'm the one speaking on behalf of you. Thank you. Yeah.